I have a job for you.
Jeez, it's not another arc, is it?
No, not again. This time I need a full-scale home renovation.
Noah Construction and Builders is your design and build partner. We do it all, from additions and dormers to full-scale renovations. Schedule your no-cost design consultation today. Visit us online at noahconstruction-builders.com.
Noah Construction and Builders. Through dreams we design, with vision we build.
WGBB Radio, we're back here again after the week off last week. MuscleSport Media Live, 95.9 FM, 1240 AM. I am your co-host, Joe Pietaro, across from my co-host and paisan, Anthony Tuminello, sporting a New York Metropolitans baseball team t-shirt. Anthony, what's going on?
How are you? Well, not that I'm really that excited about it, but spring training's underway, and before you know it, the season's starting. I'm really not excited. I'm not excited, and you still get the little bit of excitement because it's starting. The weather's getting nicer. It's starting to smell like spring, right? To me, spring smells like a ball field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you're first starting in little league and high school ball and all that stuff. The grass and the birds are chirping.
Yeah.
But I'm not that excited about the Mets.
You shouldn't be. They're barely going to be 500. If that.
We never know. But they'll reel us in. Until April. And then
June. June is the June swoon.
June is either the swimmer sink or the cemetery.
It usually is. But of course, I'd be remiss if I also didn't want to mention again, Noah Construction-Builders.com. Our title sponsors, no job too small nor big for Noah Construction-Builders.com. Trevor, are you a Met, Yankee, or neither fan? Neither. You have a team that you're a fan of, or you just like?
I don't like baseball too much.
Oh, okay.
I'm a basketball.
All right.
Are you a Knick fan?
I'm
Nick?
a Knick fan.
Thank
All right.
you know what?
Go.
And God bless you, sir. Because if you're
three
gonna
Knick fans in the room.
if there's any years to be a Knick fan now, this is some. We never had a team like this. Right?
You're right about
The
that.
run and gun. We got almost that. It's
with
not
a
just
lot of injuries. That's
yes, sir. And it's
they're
not
playing
just a
well.
defensive, clang and bang team. It's not that bully basketball.
Yeah.
We got an offense, boy. But we're not talking about basketball.
No. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about baseball training. You had spoken to me earlier today.
Strength training
for people who are playing our national pastime,
Right.
the greatest game ever created, baseball. 2 words originally, if you go back in your old 19th century time frame. Baseball is a very unique game because one skill that someone needs to master, i.e. pitching, is completely different from the other skills, hitting, fielding, base running. I mean, it's just, there's so many different things. So obviously, if you're like, as a trainer, if you're going to be training somebody, like you say, strength training, obviously it's going to be position specific depending on if this guy or gal is a pitcher, a hitter, a position player, or whatever the case. So how do you, what is the biggest difference, I guess I would say, baseball strength training overall? Could that encompass all of these?
It does.
People that play all different spots on the field?
It does. First off, just remember something. In any strength training protocol or program for any sport, you still have to do actual weightlifting strength training. So that's got to be part of the protocol. That actual strength day, that power day, then you add your functional training day, sports specific day. But don't forget, strength training is just that. So you have your strength movements, your power movements that you must do in any sport. Sport.
Yeah.
You're like we said, your dead, your squats, your compound movements, that builds overall body strength. Now, when you get specific towards, an individual sport, that's when you individualize certain movements based on the functionality of their sport. You know what I mean?
And then even deeper, like I said, the position.
Absolutely.
Also, but
absolutely.
So baseball strength training. What's the one-on-one on what that would encompass?
Okay, so there's always your lower body power, right? So think of a pitcher, right? Do you think it's really arm strength that people really see?
It's all lower body.
Aha.
It's ground-based.
Yes, sir, my friend. So
push off on
push off power,
the
leg
rubber and the
power,
mound.
no
Yeah.
question. Things like that, what you really do want to always limit with certain things when it comes to baseball training is too much anterior shoulder work, because that could cause a muscle imbalance with your posterior and can cause a little more tendonitis than usual. So there's certain things you never really do with a you can definitely bench, you could definitely do push power, stuff like that. That old school thing is that you can't bench press if you're a baseball player. That's not necessarily true. As long as you keep functionality with the player, you have to get them bigger and stronger. There's no question. Remember, I'm sure in the 70s, whatever, strength training was prohibited.
Oh,
You weren't allowed. They didn't really know, because they thought that was strictly for power lifters, for football linemen, which is not the case. And that's what they taught us in strength and conditioning, classes, exercise science, and stuff like that. Now, the interesting part is, I actually did my senior thesis in Cortland on the biomechanics of a pitch. All right, now you think, oh, that's very simple, but it isn't. I had to write a 12-page paper on the biomechanics of a pitch. Now,
double spaced.
Yes, double space. And back then, I didn't have Google and all that other stuff. So I had someone type it for me, I think. But I didn't have Google and everything, so I really had to do a ton of research.
Library.
Yeah, you really think about it. And people think that it's a simple concept, but it really, really isn't. The biomechanics of a pitch and what involves, you have torque. You have lower body explosive power in there. And don't forget, throwing an overhand ball, especially a baseball, is a very unnatural movement.
Terrible for you.
You're really not supposed to do that.
That's why they get their arms blown out all
Absolutely.
the time. Yeah.
The actual way to functionally throw a ball is actually underhand, which people don't realize. That's why you have your female softball players. That's actually really way better for your shoulder.
And that was the original way they pitched too in the
back
old
in
days.
the day.
Back in the two-word baseball days was underhand, and they called for the location.
Right.
And if the pitcher didn't do it, it counted as a ball, and the umpire warned him. Get one warning, like the batter say, "I want it right here."
Right.
Right.
That's amazing.
It's
amazing.
But think of how much the game is changed.
You know what's funny?
Over centuries.
My two brother-in-laws, actually, one of them lives in Kentucky. There's a league.
There's one out here.
Yeah, oh, there is?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of them out
the
here.
1800s.
I did a story for Long Island Pulse magazine.
Get out of here.
That I forget her name, but I don't know if it was a secret or not. But the secret's out. James Dolan's.
One of his Kumars?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He bought her a magazine. She published. It was a very nice magazine.
Right.
Like
it wasn't the Ultimate Athlete, was it?
No. That was another one I wrote for.
One.
I wrote for them too.
You did?
Yeah, they were out in East Setauket.
Get out. I used to do the strength. I'm learning something.
I wrote a lot of stories about the high school sports.
I did the power.
I forget the name of the owner. He was a very nice guy.
I did the PowerPoints articles. I
really?
did. Yeah, I did it for 3 years.
So I did it for a while.
I actually got to look that up now. I have to see that.
You might see some MSM ads in there.
Get out of here! I did not know that. That's the first magazine.
That was a beautiful looking magazine. It was
besides the fact, Joey, I tell everyone this. That's what put me on the map. Because. Well,
it used to be Long Island.
Long Island, and then it was the Ultimate Athlete. Yeah. So I wrote the PowerPoints versions of that, of the articles, and that's what put me on the map. Back then, don't forget, there was no Instagram. This is 07.
No. Yeah, I was going to say, this is when I was working for New York Sports Scene. It was like in that 06 to 09.
I was the first one who actually, listen, there's been sports-specific training for a while, but I was the first one to actually demonstrate it on Long Island and as far as the high school scene. They did. There's no question. There's always been strength and conditioning coaches, but I did a lot of those stuff. Like, no one had anything to do with plyometrics were, like the mainstream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I did a lot of articles on, every sport specifically, but that's funny.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we have a publisher in common. The Long Island, I forget the name of the leagues, but there's there's two leagues that play out here. And one of them, they do it at that old, damn it, I can't remember the name of it. It'll, whatever. But yes, they play.
They play with no gloves.
No gloves.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can make it out if you catch it on one bounce.
One bounce.
If
One
it goes
bounce.
2 bounces, it's a hit.
That's right.
But yeah, no gloves. And they actually stitch the ball up and repair it and put it back in the game. And yeah, it was actually, I really had an amazing time.
Oh man, I didn't know there were
covering
leagues out
this.
here.
Yeah, Saturdays. I forget where it was, Huntington or something. And
You
then
see
there's
the-
another one in Nassau.
With the old school uniforms, their wool.
Oh, the wool, yeah.
How did they do that in the summer, man?
Oh, it had to be so uncomfortable.
Stinking.
Yeah,
Right?
and then they didn't have multiple. They had one.
And they had one, and they didn't really wear deodorant in the 1800s. You know, maybe.
No.
Who knows?
I don't know if they had it.
I mean, I'm sure. Who knows? Anyway, but yes. So as far as sport-specific training, there is such a thing, but there is those standard strength exercises that you need to really do, regardless of the sport that you're playing.
Any sport that you're playing on the field,
So-
diamonds or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Now, what you
Right.
said is as far as lower body power, we do a lot of that stuff with pitchers. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Explosive power, like plyometrics, jumping forward on one leg, things like that. Also, the biggest thing, too, is rotational power that people don't really understand. Rotational power is core strength, but using your functional rotation, your obliques, and all that other stuff. You know, like when you're swinging a bat.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. But the main thing is you have to remain functional, not blocky, not robotic, but functional is very important. However, you have to do what we call those linear exercises, you know, those standard push-pulls, those standard squats, those standard things to build power. But that's all the same in every sport. And then you
Every
add the
sport.
functional, you know, functionality of certain things.
Yeah. Remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, where the Mets, with Noah Syndergaard showed up at spring training. And he was, you know, he obviously hit the gym a lot
Right,
during the winter.
right.
And a lot of articles were saying he was too big, and that was going to cause him to have injuries. Now, I don't recall exactly what happened that year, but we know he's had a boatload of injuries since then. And his career has pretty much been derailed, you know, at this point. Do you think a pitcher, especially a guy like him who had so much height and long arms, long limbs, could he be too big to pitch?
I think it's subjective. I think it's all based on the individual. It's quite possible, you know, that he was doing maybe, you know, and I know he had a specific trainer that he was using. A lot of them even have their own, you know, besides their strength coach, they use their own trainers and stuff like that. I looked on recently Francisco Alvarez's program that he was doing. Very intense, he's a strong dude,
I love
man.
his future. Is so
I really
bright.
hope so. I hope so. But he does a lot of functional power. This is like the nerdy stuff that I love, you know what I mean?
But this is so important for especially a young guy like that.
Well, especially
to stay
now.
healthy.
Yeah, especially
That's
now.
the big thing. You know?
And Joey, it's also injury prevention that we're doing as well.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you know what I
Strength and
mean?
conditioning, people forget how
important it is.
for injury. I'll give you a quick example. 96 Jets. Rich Kotite coached them. They were 1-15. Everybody was injured. It was one of those brutal seasons. Obviously, he gets fired. Bill Parcells comes in. Pretty much the same roster. Goes 9-7. Should have made the playoffs, but he got too cute for himself in the last game of the year with Detroit with trick plays, and they missed the playoffs. But you go from 1-15 to 9-7, and the thing was, nobody was hurt that year of any long period of time. Maybe a little. I mean, football's football, but he had the same roster. But he had a strength and conditioning program where they had to. And he's a tough coach.
Oh yeah.
Right, the tuner. So he made these guys were the same guys, and they went from being out of shape and banged up all the time to in top shape.
Love to hear
and
it.
stayed on the field, and the team played fantastic for him.
Love to hear it.
That's to me is just a huge example of what strength and conditioning in a sport. That how do you not have it?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is
Absolutely.
why
Well, you know,
it's Kotite.
and I always say this too, like if you notice, they were athletes back in the day. There's no doubt. What we're doing is we're building super athletes when it comes to certain things. I mean, look at the explosiveness in basketball. Look at how they could dunk more and jump higher and do all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Don't tell me Dr. J and MJ didn't do the same thing.
Dr. J, you know, no, it was truly
60s
amazing.
And 70s and 80s.
You want to talk about MJ?
Amazing.
You know who trained MJ, right? He had a personal trainer, right? MJ, that his trainer, I forget his name. I always forget that guy's name. Anyway, Tim Grover, that was his name. That guy was MJ's personal trainer. Okay, MJ was so good, right? Guess who else used him that played just like MJ? Kobe Bryant, same trainer. You know, same personal trainer. Yeah. And that guy was ahead of his time. He was a strength and conditioning coach, personal, like what I do, one-on-one stuff before a lot of people were. You know what I mean? In the 80s and but it also the other thing too is that, you know, it's not all rainbows and stuff like that. You could also go, you know, the other spectrum. There's been strength and conditioning coaches fired, aka one of the years in the late 2000s, the Yankees they all started pulling their hamstrings. I forgot what year it was. I believe it was 08, 09. And they figured out that it was really the strength and conditioning program that was doing it.
Probably wasn't stretching.
It was either non-flexibility or it was just doing too much of one, maybe anterior power, which is your front side. That they figured it out, but I don't know if he was a scapegoat or what, but they figured out that it was the strength and conditioning coach that was causing a lot of those injuries, or his program specifically. Yeah. So you can go to the opposite spectrum. If you don't really know what you're doing, you can cause injuries with certain things. Now, but the other thing is too, and this is where I come into play. I've got coaches and boxing coaches, and they'll blame strength and conditioning for if a player gets injured or something like that. It's definitely not the fact that they're running them 24 hours a day or playing triple games a day, not hydrated or anything like that. Oh, no, it's the strength and conditioning coach that's causing injuries. You know, that I love when I hear that. It's definitely, they're working out too much. They're strength training too much. No, sir. What's happening is you're making them run in 105-degree weather. They're dehydrated and they're pulling their muscles. So, you know, that's the other spectrum. Yeah.
Dehydration, especially they don't do like the 2-a-days like they did in the NFL and forever, which I think is causing a lot of guys to have injuries now because their bodies aren't conditioned yet to take these pops. Right. Once the real games come into play, they have, they barely play any preseason snaps.
But also don't forget, we're also building very powerful human beings.
Yeah, guys are freaking Mack trucks.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, they are hitting harder. Bigger, faster, stronger. And that's just what strength and conditioning does. Yeah. We're making them into a better athlete as far as on the field explosiveness, and power and speed and. I mean that's the difference there. But you are right with certain things, definitely.
What do you think of a guy like Giancarlo Stanton? This guy went from an MVP to just every injury possible he's sustained, but he's still, like I saw early this spring, he came in very slim. He looks very slim. I don't know what that means. You can make your own assessment on that one. Yeah. But he hit a bomb already at the beginning of spring. I mean, the guy just has beautiful freaking swing. Yeah. So how does a guy get so many injuries? I mean, I don't think he's slacking. He's in good shape if you look at him all the time.
You know what? I personally think once you have one detrimental injury, what happens is you cause muscle imbalances. And when something kind of goes, even if you rehab the heck out of it, when something goes, I believe it, what happens is other muscles really try to take over. So then it just creates kind of the
imbalance is going to cause a future
Right.
injury.
It's almost like, the domino effect when it comes to that. That's usually what happens. Yeah. Someone like him, he just has, people are just born with just natural strength and power.
But I mean, he's always, every time you see him, he's running and all of a sudden you see him pull up. And it's like, oh no, again.
Yeah, something. Some people are injury prone. Some people aren't. Look at LeBron James. He's indestructible. Yeah. Look at Mickey Mantle back in the day. Someone like Mickey Mantle. Yeah. That guy was drinking a handle of Jack Daniels the night before.
He did no training.
Right. I mean, if you think look at Babe Ruth. I mean, not that it's. I mean, just some people are just naturally.
They just
It's the same thing with some people are prone to gaining fat and some people aren't. You know, some people could eat 3 pizzas a day and be ripped. It's just the way the body is. Correct.
For example, the guy's diet was terrible, but he was.
Well, he was eating. If you know his story, he was eating 8,000 calories a day, but he was also burning God knows how many calories.
Swimming, practicing for the Olympics and all of that. Yeah, no, it definitely has a lot to do with your genetics, and a lot of it's just luck of the draw too. As far as you're gonna get fat, you're gonna get muscular, but it's weird how guys like Travis Darno with the Mets, when he kept getting injured. Now I'm not talking about getting hit by pitch.
That might have been just the Mets. Might have been the Mets curse.
There's a lot of the guys you can say that.
That if anything's the Mets curse, that's one of them. They leave the Mets and they win a World Series.
Yeah.
And become a multiple-year All-Star.
Or throw no-hitters.
Or throw
one-hitters on the Mets, i.e. Tom Seaver.
No-hitter, talking about Doc Gooden. Did he throw one on the Mets?
No,
Did he throw one on the Yankees?
Yes.
And if anyone's cursed, that's the curse.
But the strength and conditioning, it's funny because I've interviewed a lot of baseball players over the years, and a lot of it was, about strength and conditioning, and a lot of the veterans years ago said the same thing. It was frowned, not only frowned, they didn't allow it.
Yep.
They didn't have gyms in the clubhouse and stuff like that. They told them don't. Like, they would almost fine them if they found out they were training on their own time.
Keith and Nan, you know who was an animal back in the day? Well, I mean, listen, in the early '90s to the mid '90s, they were lifting like bodybuilders and lifting like power lifters, man. Even Lenny Dykstra back in the day, they showed his he would play a double header and then go squat 350 pounds. But the funniest thing was Keith Hernandez was talking about it on air recently. And he goes, "Oh no, we never lifted weights. We weren't allowed to." But as they're telling me I wasn't allowed to, I was lighting a cigarette in the clubhouse with my feet up, with no shoes on, and
Budweiser.
I mean, those guys were different type of animals, man.
Yeah, well, Keith, he still enjoys his party, and he's great on the mic. He doesn't hide it, and why should he?
Why should he? He's Keith Hernandez.
He's
Keith Hernandez, just like Jerry Seinfeld said. He's Keith Hernandez. Let me tell you, that's probably one of the best.
Pretty boy.
That was probably one of the best sports books I've ever read.
Oh, the
bad guy. The
bad guys. Whatever. I forget the name.
year the bad guys won.
Yeah.
And then when they did the
worst team money could buy.
Yep. They did the documentary on it. Man, those guys were animals.
Oh, the 30 for 30. Yeah. Yeah, and Lenny Dykstra is one of the best Twitter followers. And I gotta say, he and I have gone back and forth so many times with funny things. I have his number in my
Do you? Because
I called him and spoke to him.
Probably my favorite baseball player.
He's a regular guy, bro.
He's a regular
so
animal.
Funny.
He's a regular animal. You ever hear him on? I mean, I don't listen to him now, but the Howard Stern show. Oh my God, Lenny back then.
Lenny likes to have a good time. Yeah, he's a lot of fun. And
he was one of the best. He was one of the best stories on the 30 for 30. So every city they went to, I guess, Lenny Dykstra would disappear and find the most underground gambling spot he could find in the city.
I gotta find him. Maybe I gotta reach
out
to him.
Right. It was an underground gambling spot, and they said that I guess Ron Dahl, they were talking about that. Like, where's Lenny? They couldn't find him. They had to go search the city, and they would find the most seedy place, and Lenny would be in the poker room
somewhere.
at 3-4 in the morning, and then I was
playing 5 card.
He was a gambler, boy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Listen, that team played hard, and they played hard.
That was. I got to tell you, that was. I mean, not just because I'm a Met fan.
Will never be topped.
No, you can't. You can't top the '80s. And in baseball history, you can't top that '86
almost
team.
blew it.
I know.
That's what made it even better. The both series, the Houston one, and the Boston one.
Don't talk about that, because I remember I was a child. I was like 8. I was like 7, 8 years old, whatever the case. But I remember hating Mike Scott. He scuffed that ball. He cheated.
Yeah, he learned that pitch when he got traded to Houston for Danny Heat.
God. You saw the scuff marks on that ball.
That's gamesmanship. I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with anything.
I love it. I think it's great.
But they caught him. At least he could have admitted it.
They avoided Game 7. And who led off the Game 6 and when they were trailing 3-0 against Bob Neppa? Lenny Dykstra with a leadoff triple.
No doubt.
And then they tied the game in the 16 innings, and the Billy Hatcher Oklahoma. They're
That's
tired
it.
again.
That's it.
Oh, goodness
I got
gracious.
chills from that,
Oh,
man.
Kevin Bass swinging at that high 3
I got
2
chills.
pitch.
I got chills from that.
We're going to have to leave it there,
Oh,
my
man.
friend.
We got to continue this one.
Meet the Mets, baby. For Trevor and Anthony, I am Joe. Make sure you go to Noah Construction-Builders.com. Our title sponsor every Monday and MuscleSportMag.com. We'll see you next week.
Noah, I have a job for you.
Jeez, it's not another arc, is it?
No, not again. This time I need a full-scale home renovation.
Noah Construction and Builders is your design and build partner. We do it all, from additions and dormers to full-scale renovations. Schedule your no-cost design consultation today. Visit us online at noahconstruction-builders.com.
Noah Construction and Builders, through dreams we design with vision we build.